On April 22nd, the first season of Heartstopper came out on Netflix, and it was clear from the get-go that they were onto something incredibly special. It was based on an already beloved comic series by Alice Oseman, but it was the show that really made Heartstopper into a cultural phenomenon. The show went on to garner huge success, and the fanbase of Heartstopper grew significantly. It also received 2 more seasons that led to it finally ending with a movie. Now, I do think that it's safe to say that even if Heartstopper isn't your cup of tea, this show is incredibly important. It is widely recognized as a great queer show written by queer people for queer people. It brings representation and introduces aspects of queer identities in a way that feels very approachable, easy to understand, but also reaffirming. Growing up with a show like Heartstopper has genuinely been life-changing for me, as I'm sure for many others out there watching. And now, this beloved franchise has finally come to an end with a movie, and I would say it has been received pretty well, even though it is far from perfect. So today I want to focus on the Heartstopper Forever movie, give you guys my thoughts on it, and also decide whether it was a fitting end to the series, as well as do some reflecting on the impact that Heartstopper had on society. Hello, my name is Freyr, I'm your favorite local first grammar and a Polish sociology student, and welcome to my little corner of the internet where I discuss all forms of popular media that interest me, whether that's books, TV shows, films, or music. Honestly, I'm very excited to do this video because I am such a big Heartstopper fan. I genuinely love this show so much, and seeing it finally end, it's crazy. I was very, very emotional when I watched this movie for the first time, but I also did have some notes for it, and I am more than ready to present them for you. But before I actually get into talking about this movie, I would quickly like to remind you that you can always subscribe to my channel, like the video, share it around with your friends, and you can also follow me on all of my other social media, which will be listed in the description box below. And so yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. The Heartstopper Forever movie. Okay, I think there are many things to love about it, but there are also many downsides to it, definitely more than I would have liked. First of all, this cast has always been incredible. I genuinely am still shocked by just how incredible they all are. Alice really just shook that book and they fell out of it. It's so perfectly casted. This movie is also perfectly acted out. The performances, specifically from our leads in this movie of Kit Connor and Joe Locke, are insane. And we'll get to some of those performances a little bit later in the video. And obviously, the rest of this cast is also incredible. But one of my main gripes with this movie is that they don't really get utilized at all, actually. What I really love about this show is that Nick and Charlie are obviously going to be center focus because, you know, they are the main characters, but there was always so much more room to explore other stories that aren't just about them. For example, Elle and Tao get so much to do, whether it's together or away from each other, and so do Tara and Darcy. Isaac, Imogen, and Sahar, on the other hand, get a little less, but they still get stuff here and there. Meanwhile, in this movie, they are there, they are present, they showed up for a check basically, but aside from Elle, none of them really do anything. Tara and Darcy specifically, where are they? They have no story in this movie, nothing. And what we actually get for characters like Elle or Tao is very fragmentary. First, we see them argue, and then the next scene that Elle actually gets to talk in is the scene where she talks about trans rights, which absolutely love. Yes, trans rights are human rights, and they are very, very important. But then we suddenly go back to the last dance, and that's it. We just jump from these little moments here and there in the story. This is the Charlie and Nick movie, and I don't think I hate it, but I do feel kind of weird about it. This show has so many characters that get the short end of the stick because this is a movie and not a full season of television. And that is probably the biggest issue with this movie. This easily could have been stretched out to be a full season. Just imagine how perfect it could have been if this was just a full season of television. Then we could have gotten more of other characters than just Nick and Charlie, and sometimes Elle. Maybe then we could get, I don't know, a few cute moments between Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajay. We could maybe get a full coming out arc for Imogen and see her potentially maybe end up with Sahar, which I don't know if she actually does because the movie actually never states that. We could see a little bit more of Michael and Tori together. We could have an actual story for Tara and Elle, not just argument, breakup, last dance. I would love to see anything for Tara and Darcy because they are practically absent from this movie. And I would also love to see like a full storyline for the closeted gay kid that Charlie protects from bullies. so on and so forth. And even for Nick and Charlie, we could have had more. Not to mention how this being a movie essentially chops the plot down in a way that leaves more than a couple loose ends. For example, there is that entire storyline about Charlie starting a queer conversation club in his school, and there is a scene where he talks to the head of the school, and the guy says no to it because some stupid reasons. I don't remember what he said, but anyway, later Mr. Ajay tells Charlie that us queers historically have never asked for permission, which, yes, absolutely true, and by the way, a banger line, but they still go on with the club, and then there are no consequences to it. Like, I understand that, Heartstopper is kind of like a fantasy setting. Many people joke about this world being like 80% queer and 20% straight or something like that. But even then, it's not really that realistic. Like, there should be probably a storyline after they actually go on with the club. But because this is a movie and not a season of television, we don't actually get to see a resolution for it because we have more important things to do. Same with Charlie and Nick getting back together at the end and them just showing up to prom. I feel like there could have been more. There could have been a conversation, I don't know, maybe between their friends or with their friends, because the way their friends react is just like, oh, they got back together. Yay. You're not gonna talk about it? That is probably the number one criticism I have for this movie. I just feel like ending a franchise like this with a movie is just kind of phoning it in. Just imagine the potential impact of a full-length final season that is, for example, released like an episode at a time, and how beautiful that finale could be. Maybe we could also get a dedicated section for what the characters are up to in that finale. In the movie, there is this epilogue that lasts like 2 minutes, and that alone could have been an episode for me. We could see a little bit of Tara and Darcy traveling together. Maybe we could see the evening after Tao visits Elle in Berlin at her art exhibit. We could maybe see Imogen and Sahar getting back together or not, or what's going on there, have a conversation about their feelings for each other, if there are any. We could, I don't know, maybe see the early success of Isaac becoming an author. I would also just love to spend more time with Nick and Charlie when Charlie visits him in uni. Just imagine, we could have had it all. I love epilogue episodes like that, and trust, I would be seated as fuck for this. See, I started off with complaining about this movie, but I actually did really like it. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd. By the way, follow me on there if you don't already. This movie made me cry several times. The edits from it are absolutely disgusting, and I need them to end like now. But at the same time, I see so much potential for what they could have done as a goodbye to this franchise, and it's just frustrating to even think about it, that it just didn't happen. I would love to live in a universe where Heartstopper just got a final 4th season. This movie felt both rushed and not rushed enough at the same time. At times we would be speeding through scenes, and then suddenly we get like a 2-minute long scene of Elle at the Pride Parade doing I think it's like a call and response with the crowd, which, listen, that scene got clowned on by a lot of people, and unfortunately I kind of see why. It could have been so much more powerful if it only had anything else written into it. Yes, we do want trans rights and we want them now, obviously, but have Elle maybe give a speech. I don't know, be a little bit more passionate about it. Say something else than just constantly repeating the same phrase. Sometimes we get the faster pacing, but then we sit and dwell in these scenes for so long, and the entire movie falls flatter because of it, because we could have just used that time for something more interesting, more impactful for the story. There are certain emotional transitions in the film as well that feel a little abrupt. That, for example, I would attribute to Imogen coming out as a lesbian to Nick, which fully happens out of nowhere. She has no arc in this movie. She just comes out, which, listen, happy for her, love that for her, but maybe we could develop it a little, and then she tells that to Nick, and Nick is like, okay, cool. I don't know, it's Heartstopper. Give her a bit of a moment, hug her, congratulate her, anything, just do something. However, there are also many things that I really, really did like about this movie. The color storytelling specifically in this show is so strong, and I feel like not many people are talking about it. That has always been a big strength of Heartstopper, and we definitely see it in this film. As an example of this, I would say how dark and dim everything gets once Nick and Charlie are broken up. I would specifically think about the Pride Parade when we got to see the like contrast between what Charlie's wearing. He's in this like black sweater and the colors of the Pride Parade because he's unable to enjoy it because he's currently, you know, going through a breakup. It's subtle things like that that I really, really love. Heartstopper as a whole, though, has such incredible visual identity. And of course, the iconic animated doodles are back and they are better than ever. The soundtrack, as always, perfect. No notes. 10 out of 10. Great soundtrack. What I also love is the story of this film and how it showcases a clear evolution for the tone of this franchise. As we've gone on, this show really did mature a lot with its content and also how it tackled it. Season 1 is this pretty much frivolous season. It's almost not at all heavy. It's really, really PG, just cutesy, friendly, nice. It's a comfort watch, basically. But as we go on and as the characters grow up, we get to see the show tackle more dark and mature themes. Season 2 shows us a little bit of that with, for example, Darcy and their mom, a possible hinting at an ED with Charlie, and also setting up the storyline of Nick and his dad. Season 3, though, takes all of that and just ups that to 11. That season is probably the best season of the franchise, in my opinion, and I cry every time. Episode 4 and 5 of that season are just some of the best episodes of television ever made, actually. And I don't care. That might be a controversial take. I really don't give a fuck. Probably some of the best episodes of anything I've ever seen. And in that aspect, I think that the Heartstopper movie actually really delivers. It is so crazy to look at it in contrast to the first season of the show. The evolution has been very steady, but significant. Seeing Nick and Charlie broken up was obviously difficult, but it really did allow for the both of them to grow and get some more spotlight of their own. That was honestly great to see, specifically with Nick. This is just basically his movie. Straight up. He is so good in it. I think it's almost the writer's way of acknowledging how much the story depended on both of them being together. So breaking them up was such a good idea because we finally get to spend some free time with Nick by himself. Of course, in season 3, they are separated for an entire episode and honestly a big duration of time because I think that's like a couple months in the show. And there is that entire scene at the party where Nick cries. And Tao is like there hugging him. That scene is so heartbreaking. But that one episode doesn't really lead to character development for Nick. Here, though, the situation is different. Nick spends this movie learning who he is without Charlie. He deconstructs his worldview and his past. He deals with his family trauma. He learns both how to be a better boyfriend, but also how to feel better about himself. He sheds this idea of being a perfect boyfriend. We see that his devotion to Charlie doesn't protect him from his own uncertainty. He truly is like the MVP of this movie. Probably my favorite scene of his is when he talks with his mom about his dad, and then also you get that flashback, which I will say these are some of the best scenes in the entire film for me. Even though I was slightly like taken off guard, I guess, seeing somebody else play his mom than Olivia Colman. We miss her badly. That is my queen. Even though I do think that the actress that she got replaced with was also great in the role. And what Charlie does on his own is also great storytelling. His mental health kind of worsens, but he also learns what he really wants from this relationship. These two break up, they grow a little as people separately from each other, and then they reunite. And they reunite in a much stronger relationship. And I think that's beautiful. These are no longer kids that are just like tiptoeing around their emotions. These are young adults who have to face bigger problems, but also learn how to deal with them and how to power through them together. This movie also got some criticism for the way it approached sex, which I will say that I completely disagree with most of that criticism. Apparently, people are also upset over Nick being a bottom and also about the way that these scenes look like, how they were written. Just basically anything about them is getting criticized online, and I don't see anything wrong with them. You have to remember, Heartstopper is not heated rivalry. It's not elite. Obviously, it's gonna approach sex a little differently than these shows. And they do it in a way that is more innocent. But at the same time, it is kind of funny to me how many people who weren't even watching the show in the first place were complaining about how it was unrealistic because they weren't having sex. Meanwhile, season 3 and the movie exist. So like, that is just factually incorrect. That is kind of an interesting conversation to have, I feel like, because why are we expecting sex from a show about teenagers? Like, why is that? These are kids you're talking about. These are minors. Why is that normalized? Like, why are we so conditioned to expect sex from shows about teenagers? That is just kind of weird in my opinion. I feel like a lot of the Heartstopper hate comes from people just being used to very like sexualized, fetishized even queer media. But still, I think that it's weird to expect from these characters who are kids for most of the series to have sex. It's just straight up weird for me. But I am kind of getting ahead of myself. Let's just finish talking about the movie first. There are so many scenes in this movie that made me feel so much. Specifically, I think I have to mention the anxiety attack scene with Charlie. Seeing him just like sob his eyes out and stare at his phone with the app like congratulating him on being self-harm free for a period of time was crazy. I legit had to pause the movie there. It was just so heartbreaking, but it also shows you that mental recovery isn't a linear process. Sometimes you can relapse, you can have bad days, it can worsen. And I think that the show really did a great job of emphasizing that both here and also in season 3. The best scene of the movie, hands down, was Elle talking to Charlie about having to navigate being trans in a world that actively hates trans people. That was such an important moment, and I'm so happy that it wasn't cut from the story. It's one of the only scenes in this entire film that doesn't somehow focus on Nick and Charlie, but on something bigger than them, and I love it. Yasmin Finney also, I love her so much. She is such a great actress, and her playing Elle was just perfect. Another scene that I really, really loved in this film was in the cafe when Charlie is serving an elderly gay couple. This couple is actually played by Derek Jacobi and his husband Richard Clifford, and they are both very successful actors who have been together for a very long time. And also, they are real-life husbands. This scene is so important to me. I think what really makes Heartstopper special is its representation of joy in queer youth. But at the same time, I don't think we talk enough about queer elders, and we don't see them represented often either. So that's why I think seeing a happy real life couple in this scene was just so meaningful to me. This show in a way has been a beacon of hope for many young people, showing them that it is possible to feel joy, to find community, to find love. But then you also get scenes like these that show you that this joy doesn't end when youthfulness goes away. That to me is only further showing how incredibly important Heartstopper is. I think a lot of people don't realize just how much this show truly covered. Aside from just coming out stories and queer identities, which are very important and perfectly done in this show, it also tackles so many other topics such as mental health, trauma, family, fear of the future, politics even, community. It's a great learning ground for if you don't really know much about the queer community. And even if you do know a lot about the queer community, this show is still like a big hug and a promise that whatever may be wrong right now will eventually get better in the future. The characters of Heartstopper go through many hardships in this show, but it always feels like your hand is being held when you're watching the like emotionally tougher parts. And that is just so, that is so special. Like, you cannot recreate this. Not many shows have that. Heartstopper is a show that I put on when I like want to feel better about myself, when I want to cry a bit, or if I just like lose my faith in humanity, which happens like every week, honestly. Lately, it's been pretty bad. But whenever I watch this show, I just feel better about life. It's kind of like a similar thing to something like Ted Lasso, where that show is also just so positive and beautiful, but also so deep at times, where it makes you believe in humanity again. There are a lot of statements from queer people online that you can find who talk about how this show gave them comfort, hope, and how it was a source of joy for them. And I think that is the real power of Heartstopper. It is more simplistic, yes, but it's also just so incredibly positive. It's sweet. There's not much drama to it for the sake of drama. It's just characters living their lives, falling in love, learning stuff about themselves. And it's also something that we really do need in queer media. We don't get stuff like Heartstopper often, but seeing something that is maybe slightly more naive, silly, or cringe is necessary. Not everything has to be dark, traumatic, sexual, tragic. It's also okay to be cringe sometimes if it makes you feel happy. And I think that is one of the biggest lessons that I personally took away from this show. It might not be the most realistic portrayal of queer identities, but I think its lessons still stand. There is there's a reason as to why Jonathan Bailey said that this show should be a mandatory watch for every parent. It gives great examples of what young queer people may be going through and how we can help them. It's also just great for young audiences to understand the reality of being queer a little bit more, but also have hope that it's not all just darkness and rejection. It's just so good to have a queer show that is this family friendly, this joyful, this sweet. That's exactly what we need, especially at this time when queer rights are constantly being contested by politicians around the world, with continued discrimination and also so many legislations being passed around the world against queer people, or now specifically trans people. It is sometimes nice to just be able to have something like Heartstopper, to not feel constantly depressed about the state of the world and how it treats people like us. Heartstopper will always be a comfort watch for me. Few things make me feel better about myself, about the state of the world, about anything than this show. So yeah, is the Heartstopper Forever movie a good send-off for this franchise? I would say it's a decent one. It's not bad. It definitely could have been better though. But ultimately, I do think that the legacy of Heartstopper is going to remain. It will be remembered as one of the most iconic queer shows to ever exist, even though it's been a little divisive, but nonetheless, very important and very impactful. And even if the movie was far from perfect, it still had a lot of elements that made Heartstopper special in the first place. The warmth, the sweetness, the tenderness were all there, and that was obviously amazing to see. And most importantly, this franchise did a lot of good. It started a lot of very important conversations and made a lot of people feel less alone. And that is the true impact of Heartstopper. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it till the end of the video, definitely let me know what you thought about it, or about the movie, about the Heartstopper franchise as a whole, or maybe about the future of queer media and queer shows altogether. Please remember to subscribe to my channel. You can go also watch my other videos. And yeah, make sure to stick around because I do weekly videos now, sometimes even more frequently. And next week, I think we're going to be back to music reactions for a minute because there is a very exciting album that is coming out. And I am so hyped for it. It's hard to even put to words. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Go and watch some Heartstopper episodes, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.